I stood in front of my mother's house on Maple Street in Salem, Massachusetts, on a gray morning in late September 2024, holding keys that felt heavier than they should. The colonial-style home looked exactly as it had for the 42 years of my life. White clapboard siding, black shutters, a front porch where my mother used to sit with her coffee every morning. She'd been dead for 3 weeks, and I hadn't been allowed at the funeral. My sister Claire had made sure of that, but Claire was in Boston today for a conference, and I'd driven the hour and 15 minutes from my apartment in Worcester with one purpose: to say goodbye to the woman who'd raised me, in the only way I had left. The key turned in the lock with a sound that felt too loud in the quiet suburban morning. Inside, the house smelled like my mother, lavender and old books and something I couldn't name, but that meant home. I hadn't been inside in 4 years. 4 years since the day Claire had convinced our mother that I was stealing from her, that I was manipulating her, that I was the source of every problem in her declining years. 4 years since I'd become the family villain in a story I didn't recognize. My name is David Monroe, and I came to clean my mother's house. What I found instead was the truth. The estrangement had started slowly, the way these things do. My mother, Helen Monroe, had begun showing signs of dementia when she was 73. Small things at first: forgetting appointments, repeating stories, losing track of days. By the time she was 75, she needed help managing her finances and her household. Claire had swooped in immediately. My older sister by 6 years, she'd always been the organized one, the responsible one. She lived 15 minutes away in Marblehead with her husband Robert, a corporate lawyer who made the kind of money that let them vacation in the Hamptons and send their 2 kids to private schools. I was a high school English teacher in Worcester, divorced, living in a 1-bedroom apartment, driving a 10-year-old Honda. "I'll handle everything, David," Claire had said during a family meeting in early 2020, sitting in the living room where I now stood. "I'm closer. I have more flexibility with my schedule. You have your teaching. It just makes sense." It had made sense. I'd been grateful, actually. Caregiving was exhausting, and I was already stretched thin between work and trying to rebuild my life after my marriage ended. So I'd step back and let Claire take the lead. That was my first mistake. The changes started subtly. Claire began scheduling Mom's doctor appointments on days I couldn't make it. She'd forget to tell me about family dinners until after they'd happened. When I'd call my mother, Claire would often answer and say Mom was resting, or not feeling well, or confused. "It's better not to overwhelm her with too many visitors," Claire would say. Then came the accusations. It was a Sunday in March 2020, just as the pandemic was starting to shut everything down. Claire called me, her voice tight and angry. "David, Mom's bank statement shows a withdrawal of $3,000. She says you took it." "What? I didn't take anything. I haven't even seen her bank statements." "She says you came over last week and told her you needed money for car repairs. She wrote you a check." "I didn't come over last week. I haven't been to the house in 2 weeks because of the lockdown starting." "Claire, you know this. We talked about it." "So Mom's lying?" "I'm not saying she's lying. I'm saying she's confused. That's the whole point of the dementia diagnosis. She gets things mixed up. Or you took the money and you're using her condition as cover." Claire's voice was cold. "Robert thinks we should look into getting a restraining order." The accusation was so absurd I actually laughed. "A restraining order? Claire, I'm her son. I've never taken a dime from her. Whatever happened to that money, it wasn't me. I'm going to be watching you, David. If anything else goes missing, I'm going to the police. That conversation set the tone for everything that followed. Over the next year, more money went missing. A piece of jewelry disappeared. Mom's credit card was used for purchases she didn't remember making. And every single time Claire blamed me, I tried defending myself. I showed Claire my bank records proving I hadn't deposited any unusual amounts. I pointed out that I had my own keys to the house and could have taken things without asking if I were really a thief. I suggested that maybe Mom was making purchases she didn't remember, or that someone else had access to her accounts. But Claire had made up her mind. And slowly, she turned everyone else against me too. She told our aunts and uncles that I was taking advantage of Mom. She told our cousins I was bitter about my divorce and looking for someone to blame. She told Mom's friends from church that I'd been pressuring Mom for money. By the summer of 2021, I'd been effectively erased from my own family. When I'd try to visit Mom, Claire would be there, standing in the doorway. She doesn't want to see you, David. You're upsetting her. Let me talk to her. Let me hear that from her. I'm her healthcare proxy. I'm making decisions in her best interest. You need to leave. The last time I saw my mother alive was in October 2020. I'd managed to catch her alone in her backyard, gardening in the afternoon sun. She was 76, her hands shaking slightly as she pulled weeds, but her eyes were clear when she looked up at me. "David," she said and smiled. "I was hoping you'd come." "Mom, Claire says you don't want to see me, that I've been stealing from you." Confusion crossed her face. "Stealing? No, honey. Why would you steal from me? You're my son." "That's what I keep saying. But money's been going missing. And Claire worries too much," Mom said. She stood up slowly, brushed dirt from her knees. "There's so much I need to tell you, David. Things I've been meaning to say. About your father, about the house, about—" She stopped, her expression suddenly uncertain. What was I saying? About Dad, about the house. She looked at me blankly. "Your father? He's been dead for 20 years, honey. You know that." "I know, Mom. You were going to tell me something about him." "Was I?" She looked down at her hands, at the dirt under her fingernails. "I can't remember. I'm sorry, David. My mind isn't what it used to be." I hugged her, felt how fragile she'd become. "It's okay, Mom. I love you." "I love you too, sweetheart. Don't let Claire boss you around. She means well, but she can be—" She trailed off, searching for the word. Before she could find it, Claire's car pulled into the driveway. She got out, saw me, and her face went hard. "David, I thought I told you to stay away." "I was just talking to Mom." "You're harassing her. You're trying to manipulate her into giving you money." Claire walked over and took Mom's arm. "Come inside, Mom. David was just leaving." My mother looked between us, confused and distressed. "Claire, don't be rude. David is your brother. David is taking advantage of you. We've talked about this." Claire's voice was gentle with Mom, hard when she looked at me. "If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police." I left. What choice did I have? After that, Claire got a restraining order. She went to court with bank statements showing missing money, jewelry that had disappeared, testimony from Mom's doctor about her vulnerability. She had Robert, her lawyer husband, present the case. I had a public defender who barely knew my name. The judge granted a temporary restraining order requiring me to stay at least 500 feet from my mother. Claire argued that I'd been financially abusing an elderly woman with dementia. I argued that I'd never taken anything, that someone else must have access to Mom's accounts, that Claire herself could be the one stealing. The judge looked at me like I was a desperate man making desperate accusations. Mr. Monroe, the evidence suggests a pattern of manipulation and theft. Until this matter can be fully investigated, I'm granting the restraining order. Just like that, I was legally prohibited from seeing my own mother. I tried to fight it. I hired my own lawyer, which I couldn't afford on a teacher's salary, and we dug into Mom's financial records. What we found was murky. Money had been disappearing, yes, but the pattern didn't match my visits. Some withdrawals happened when I was verifiably at work teaching classes. Some charges were made in stores I'd never been to. Someone else has access to your mother's accounts, my lawyer, Jennifer Reyes, said. But we need to prove who. Do you have any evidence that Claire might be involved? Just suspicion. She's the one with access. She's the one managing everything, but I have no proof. Then we're stuck. Without evidence, it's your word against hers. And she's the one with the clean reputation and the lawyer husband. The temporary restraining order became permanent. I wasn't allowed to visit, call, or contact my mother in any way. If I did, I'd be arrested. I spent the next 3 years in a kind of limbo. I taught my classes at Worcester High School, graded papers, sponsored the Creative Writing Club. I lived in my small apartment and tried not to think about my mother aging alone, surrounded by a daughter who turned me into a monster. I tried reaching out to other family members. My Uncle Paul, Mom's younger brother, listened to my side of the story but ultimately said, "David, I don't know what to believe. Claire's been handling everything for years. If she says there's a problem, I have to trust that." My cousin Jessica, who'd been close to me growing up, stopped returning my calls after Claire told her I'd stolen from Mom. I was erased, cut out of my own family like a tumor. The loneliness was crushing. I'd already lost my marriage. My ex-wife, Sarah, had left me for her coworker 3 years into our marriage, before any of this started. I had no kids. My friends were mostly colleagues who didn't know how to handle my family drama. I spent evenings alone, weekends alone, holidays alone. In December 2023, I spent Christmas in my apartment eating Chinese takeout and watching old movies. I wondered if Mom remembered me, if Claire told her where I was, if she asked about me at all. The call came on a Tuesday morning in early September 2024. I was in my classroom setting up for first period when my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Monroe, this is Melissa Trenton from Salem Hospital. I'm calling to inform you that your mother, Helen Monroe, passed away last night. She had a stroke. I'm very sorry for your loss." Everything stopped. What? Your sister Claire is here handling arrangements, but hospital policy requires us to notify all immediate family members. Again, I'm very sorry. I sat down at my desk, students starting to file in around me. My mother was dead, and I hadn't been allowed to see her for the last 4 years of her life. I called Claire. She didn't answer. I texted her. She responded 3 hours later. "Funeral is Friday. You're not welcome. The restraining order still stands." That night, I looked up the restraining order details. It specified that I couldn't be within 500 feet of my mother. But my mother was dead. The order didn't technically prevent me from attending a funeral, did it? Jennifer Reyes, when I called her, said, "Legally, You could probably argue that. But David, do you really want to risk it? If Claire pushes it, you could be arrested for violating the order. Is that how you want to remember saying goodbye to your mother? So I didn't go to the funeral. On that Friday, I sat in my apartment knowing my mother was being buried in Green Lawn Cemetery, the same cemetery where my father was buried, and I couldn't be there. Claire would give a eulogy about what a devoted daughter she'd been, how hard she'd worked to protect Mom in her final years. No one would mention me, or if they did, it would be as the son who tried to exploit her. I was being erased from my mother's story, just like I'd been erased from her life. But 2 weeks after the funeral, I made a decision. The restraining order was moot now. There was no one left to restrain me from. The house on Maple Street still stood, and Claire had been posting on Facebook about being too busy with work to deal with cleaning it out yet. She and Robert were planning to hire an estate sale company in October. I had keys. My mother had given them to me decades ago, and I'd never given them back. On a Tuesday morning in late September, I called in sick to work and drove to Salem. Claire would be in Boston for a conference. I'd seen her posts about it. Robert would be at his law office. I had maybe 4 hours to get into the house, maybe find some photos or mementos of my mother, and say the goodbye I'd been denied. I parked down the street, walked up to the house with my heart pounding, and let myself in. The inside was frozen in time. My mother's reading glasses on the side table, her sweater draped over the back of her chair, the crossword puzzle book she'd been working through, half finished. I picked it up and saw her handwriting, shaky but still recognizable, and started crying right there in the living room. I walked through the house slowly, the kitchen where she taught me to make her famous apple pie, the dining room where we'd had countless family dinners before Dad died, the den where she'd helped me with homework, where I'd told her about my first girlfriend, where she'd hugged me when Sarah asked for a divorce. Upstairs were the bedrooms. Mine hadn't changed much since I'd moved out at 22. Band posters still on the walls, bookshelves full of paperbacks. Claire's room was pristine, like a museum exhibit of the perfect daughter. And then there was my parents' bedroom. The door was closed, which was unusual. My mother had always kept doors open. A closed door is an unfriendly door, she used to say. I turned the knob and pushed. The bedroom was normal. The same furniture, the same quilt on the bed, but on the far wall there was something new. A door. No, not new. A door that had always been there, leading to what I thought was a closet. But there was something different about it now. There was a keyhole lock on it, and taped to the door a piece of paper with my name written in my mother's handwriting, David. My hands were shaking as I walked over. I tried the knob, locked. I looked around for a key but didn't see one. I went back downstairs to the kitchen, to the drawer where Mom had always kept spare keys. There were dozens of them, most unmarked, for doors and locks long forgotten. I grabbed the whole collection and went back upstairs. It took me 11 tries before I found the right key. The lock clicked open. I turned the knob and pushed the door inward. It wasn't a closet. It was a small room, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, with no windows. The walls were covered in papers, documents, photos, bank statements. A desk sat against one wall with a laptop. My mother didn't use computers, so what was this doing here? And file folders stacked neatly. In the center of the desk was an envelope with my name on it. I picked it up with trembling hands and opened it. The letter inside was dated August 2024, just weeks before my mother died. Her handwriting was shakier than I remembered, but still legible. "My dearest David," it began, "if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry for that, and I'm sorry for so much more. I need you to know the truth about what's been happening. I need you to know that I never believed what Claire said about you. I knew, David. I always knew." The letter went on for 3 pages. My mother explained that about 2 years into her dementia diagnosis, she'd started having periods of unusual clarity. During one of those periods, she'd checked her bank statements and realized that money was disappearing, but not when I visited. When Claire visited, she started documenting everything. Every time Claire came over, Mom would check her accounts afterward. Every time jewelry went missing, she'd note the date and who'd been in the house. She'd set up a hidden camera in her bedroom. The laptop, I realized, must have been for viewing the footage, and captured Claire going through her jewelry box, taking pieces one at a time. "I confronted her," my mother wrote. This was in January 2022. "I told Claire I knew what she was doing. She cried. David, she said she needed the money, that Robert's law firm was failing, that they were drowning in debt from keeping up appearances. She begged me not to tell anyone. She said it would destroy her family, that her children would be humiliated." My mother, against her better judgment, had agreed to keep quiet if Claire stopped. But Claire hadn't stopped. She'd gotten smarter about it, more careful. And when my mother threatened to tell me, Claire had doubled down on the accusations against me. She told me that if I said anything, she'd make sure you went to jail. Mom wrote, "She said Robert could manufacture evidence, that you'd be charged with elder abuse, that your teaching license would be revoked, and you'd lose everything. She said if I loved you, I'd keep quiet and let her handle things. I was so afraid, David. Afraid of what she might do to you. Afraid of what would happen if I spoke up. The dementia was getting worse, and I knew soon I wouldn't be able to tell truth from fiction anymore. So I started collecting evidence. Everything in this room is proof of what Claire has been doing." I looked around the room with new eyes. The bank statements on the wall showed highlighted withdrawals, each with a note in my mother's handwriting, "Claire here today." The photos showed Claire leaving the house with shopping bags on days she'd claimed to be running errands for Mom. There were receipts for expensive purchases, designer handbags, jewelry, a trip to Aruba, all made with Mom's credit card, all signed by Claire. "I wanted to tell you," the letter continued. "Every day I wanted to call you, to bring you here and show you all of this, but I was terrified of what Claire would do. And as my mind got cloudier, I became less and less sure I could protect you. So I decided to protect this instead. All the evidence, I kept adding to it whenever I had a clear day. I hid this room from Claire by telling her the door was jammed, that the closet wasn't usable. She never questioned it." The letter ended with an apology and a plea. "I'm so sorry I couldn't be stronger, David. I'm sorry I let her turn me into a weapon against you, but this evidence is here now. Use it. Get your life back. Make sure everyone knows the truth. I love you, my sweet boy. I always did, even when I couldn't say it, even when I couldn't remember your name. I loved you, Mom." I sat on the floor of that small room and wept. My mother had known. The whole time she'd known the truth, and she'd been trying to protect me in the only way she could. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. Every document, every receipt, every note my mother had made. I photographed the bank statement showing Claire's thefts totaling over $130,000 over 4 years. I photographed the jewelry receipts showing Claire had sold my grandmother's diamond earrings at a pawn shop in Boston. I photographed my mother's detailed notes. March 15th, 2021. Claire here. $2,000 missing from checking. Claire said it was for Mom's medical bills. No medical bills due. The laptop took longer to figure out. It was password protected, but there was a sticky note on the desk with a password written in my mother's handwriting. I logged in and found video files, dozens of them. I watched one dated April 2022. The camera angle showed the bedroom, focused on the dresser where my mother kept her jewelry box. In the video, Claire entered the room, looked around to make sure she was alone, and opened the jewelry box. She pulled out a pearl necklace, my father's gift to my mother on their 30th anniversary, examined it, and slipped it into her purse. The whole thing took maybe 90 seconds. Her face was clear. Her actions were deliberate. There was no ambiguity. I downloaded every video file to a flash drive I found in the desk drawer. Then I called Jennifer Reyes. Jennifer, I need you to listen to me. I have evidence, real evidence. My mother documented everything Claire did. I'm at the house right now, and I need you to tell me what to do next. There was a pause. David, are you serious? What kind of evidence? Bank records showing Claire stole over $100,000. Videos of her taking jewelry. A letter from my mother explaining everything. Jennifer, she knew. Mom knew the whole time that it was Claire, and Claire threatened me to keep her quiet. Don't touch anything else, Jennifer said immediately. Take your photos, take your videos, and get out of there. I'm going to contact the police and the district attorney's office. This is elder abuse, David. This is financial exploitation of a vulnerable person. Claire's going to be charged. I left the house with my flash drive and my photos and my mother's letter carefully stored in my bag. I drove back to Worcester feeling like the world had inverted. For 4 years, I'd been the villain. Now I had proof that I'd been the victim all along. The next week was a blur. Jennifer presented the evidence to the Essex County District Attorney's Office. They opened an investigation immediately. Claire was brought in for questioning. At first, she denied everything. Then, when they showed her the videos, she broke down and admitted to taking small amounts to help with expenses. Small amounts, the prosecutor said. Ms. Monroe, you stole over $130,000 from your elderly mother over a 4-year period. You sold family heirlooms. You used her credit cards for personal expenses. And when your mother caught you, you blamed your brother and had a restraining order taken out against him so he couldn't interfere. How is any of that a small amount? Claire tried to claim she'd intended to pay it all back, that she'd been planning to return the jewelry, that she'd only accused me because she was scared and panicked. None of it mattered. In late October 2024, Claire was charged with 11 counts, including elder financial abuse, theft, fraud, and perjury related to the restraining order proceedings. Robert, her lawyer husband, filed for divorce within a week. Turns out he hadn't known about the extent of the theft either, and he wasn't willing to go down with her. The story hit the local news. Daughter accused of stealing from mother with dementia while framing. Brother. My phone rang constantly. Reporters wanting interviews, family members calling to apologize. My Uncle Paul left a voicemail saying, "David, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have questioned Claire's story. Please call me back." Jessica, my cousin, sent a long email. "I can't believe we all fell for it. I can't believe I stopped talking to you because of her lies. I'm ashamed, David. You deserved better from all of us." The vindication felt good for about 24 hours. Then it just felt exhausting. Yes, I'd been proven right. Yes, everyone knew the truth now, but my mother was still dead. I'd still lost 4 years with her. Claire had still stolen that time from me, and no court verdict would give it back. The legal proceedings dragged on through November and December. Claire took a plea deal, 5 years in prison, restitution of the stolen money, probation after release. The judge, when sentencing her, was harsh. "Ms. Monroe, you betrayed your mother in the worst possible way. You exploited her vulnerability, stole her assets, and weaponized the legal system against your innocent brother. You denied her the comfort of her son's presence in her final years. That is a cruelty I struggle to comprehend." Claire didn't look at me during the sentencing. She kept her eyes down, her hands folded, her lawyer beside her. She looked smaller than I remembered, diminished. I didn't feel triumphant watching her be led away in handcuffs. I just felt tired. The house on Maple Street went to me in my mother's will. Claire had expected to inherit it. She'd probably been planning to use the proceeds to cover her debts, but Mom had changed her will 2 years ago, during one of her clear periods. She left everything to me with a note. David was loyal, even when it cost him everything. He deserves this. I spent the weeks after Christmas cleaning out the house. Uncle Paul and Jessica helped, both of them awkward with apology and regret. We sorted through decades of accumulated life. My mother's books, her kitchen supplies, the boxes of photos in the attic. In early January 2025, I found another letter from my mother, this one tucked into a photo album. It was shorter, dated from July 2024. "David, if you found the room, you know the truth now. I hope it helps. I hope it brings you peace. I'm sorry I couldn't be the mother you needed me to be at the end. The fog in my mind gets thicker every day. But here's what I want you to know. You were always enough. You were always good. Don't let what Claire did make you doubt yourself. You're my son, and I'm proud of you. Build a life that makes you happy. Don't waste energy on anger. Just live, David. Live well. That's the best revenge of all. I love you. Mom." I sat in the empty living room holding that letter and let myself cry for the last time. Not angry tears, not bitter tears, just grief, pure and clean and necessary. I put the house on the market in February. The sale closed in early March. The money, after paying off the small mortgage and the legal fees, came to just over $400,000. Combined with the restitution Claire was required to pay, I had more money than I'd ever had in my life. I quit my teaching job, not because I had to, but because I was tired. Tired of Worcester, tired of the classroom, tired of the life I'd been living. I decided to start over. In April 2025, I moved to Portland, Maine. I bought a small house near the water with a view of Casco Bay. I started volunteering at a literacy nonprofit, teaching adults to read. I adopted a dog from the shelter, a gray mutt named Buster, who'd been abandoned by his previous owners. We walked along the shore every morning, watching the sun come up over the Atlantic. One Saturday in May, Uncle Paul called. "David, I wanted you to know. I visited Claire in prison yesterday. She asked me to tell you she's sorry, for what it's worth." Okay, I said. Is that all? Just okay? What else is there to say, Paul? I'm not going to tell you I forgive her, because I don't know if I do. But I'm also not going to waste any more of my life thinking about her. She made her choices. I'm making mine. You sound good, David. Better than I expected. I'm working on it, I said. And I was. Working on it. Building a life that was mine, free from the weight of family expectations and accusations and betrayal. It wasn't perfect. Some days I still felt the anger rising up, the bitterness about all the time I lost. Some nights I dreamed about my mother and woke up crying. But most days were good. Most days I walked Buster along the beach and worked with my students and cooked dinner in my small kitchen while the sun set over the water. Most days I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. On a Sunday in late June, I drove to Salem. Not to the house on Maple Street, that belonged to someone else now, a young family with 2 kids who probably never know the secrets that small locked room had held. I went to Green Lawn Cemetery instead. I hadn't been allowed at my mother's funeral, but no one could stop me from visiting her grave now. I brought flowers, white roses, her favorite, and stood there in the summer sunshine looking at her headstone. Helen Monroe, beloved mother, 1948-2024. It didn't say beloved wife because my father's stone next to hers already said that. It didn't mention Claire, just mother, just me. Hi, Mom, I said quietly. I got your letters, both of them. Thank you for fighting for me, even when it was hard. Thank you for leaving me the truth. I want you to know I'm okay. I'm building that life you talked about, the one that makes me happy. It's small and quiet, but it's mine, and no one can take it from me. A breeze moved through the cemetery, rustling the leaves of the oak trees planted among the graves. Somewhere nearby, a bird was singing. I forgive you for not being able to do more, I continued. You did what you could. That's all anyone can do. And I hope you're at peace now, wherever you are. I hope you're with Dad. I hope your mind is clear again and you remember everything you loved about being alive. I stood there for a long time, not saying anything, just being present. When I finally turned to leave, I felt lighter. Not healed. Healing wasn't a destination. It was a process, but lighter, like I'd put down something I'd been carrying for too long. I drove back to Portland as the afternoon faded into evening. Buster was waiting for me at home, tail wagging, delighted by my return like I was the best thing in his world. I took him for a walk along the eastern promenade, watching the boats in the harbor, the tourists on the waterfront, the ordinary miracle of a summer Sunday. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer Reyes. Saw your mom's house sold. Hope you're doing well, David. You deserve so much better than what happened. But I'm glad you got the truth in the end. I texted back. Thank you for everything, Jennifer. I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. Building something new. That was the truth. I was building something new. Not the life I'd planned, not the life I'd expected, but something real and honest and mine. A life where I taught people who wanted to learn, where I walked my dog by the ocean, where I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. A life where the locked room with my name on it had finally been opened, and all the secrets inside had been brought into the light. I went home as the sun set over Casco Bay, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Buster settled at my feet while I made dinner. The house was quiet, but it wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. And for the first time in 4 years, I let myself believe that peace was something I was allowed to have.